Guys, Ronin man here. Hey, today I want to talk about marriage and the really from a guy's perspective. Okay, I don't want to talk about this is not about marriage like you think about marriage like it's a contract. You know whether your wife is going to be good or bad, whether she's going to cheat or she's not going to cheat, any kind of problems you're going to have. It's not about sex. It's not about any of that. Okay, marriage. There's a reason why marriage has survived for so long in society. You know, and I want to talk honestly about it, okay? From a guy's perspective who will never be married. And that's myself. Okay, so marriage is essentially a commitment, okay? You make a commitment, and when you make a commitment to anything, okay, it can have good effects on you. So, for example, when I bought a car, I was about 19 years old, and I bought a 1984 Volkswagen GTI, and I couldn't afford to buy it cash. I had bought a couple of cars. I had made some poor decisions. You know, I had bought a car that needed like $1,800 worth of work the next week. The guy had totally cheated me and had hit a big problem, and it was my fault too for not bringing it to a mechanic and everything. But I was learning; I was a young man, and so I bought this car, a couple of cars. Both of them I got totally ripped off on, and so now I'm in a position where I needed to get to school, I needed to get to work, I needed a reliable car. And so I went down to the dealership. I found the Volkswagen GTI, which I think still is one of probably my favorite car I've ever owned. Actually, I love that car. I had a lot of nicer cars after that, but that is just a great car. It was just free revving, and it was light, and it was good gas mileage, and it had like racing Recaro seats. I thought that fucking car, I don't judge things the same way other people judge them, as you might guess. But I just thought that car was a perfect balance and a great car. But either way, so I made a commitment. I went down to the dealership, and I signed a contract to purchase the car on payments. And my dad co-signed the loan, so I had suddenly I had these payments of $261 a month back in 1984, and that was quite a bit of money for me. And so this commitment, making commitment to the car, transformed my life. And I think guys, us men, we have like really a kind of a love-hate relationship with commitments. Like in some sense we hate commitments. It's like fucking commitments. I don't need any fucking commitments. And then in other senses we know as men is that we are responsible creatures, and when we know what we want and we make a decision and we move in that direction, we can be very powerful, and it can change our lives. It can cause us to kind of get rid of the things that we're doing that are not beneficial, and clean up and move forward, right? And guys, this is something that's very attractive and very beneficial for men. Making commitments can be the good part of making commitments. So either way, that car taught me, and I paid the payments on that car. Now, the big difference between that car and marriage is that nobody supported me in this. So this was a car that I purchased, but my boss, I was working as a salesman at the time when I was in university. He couldn't care less if I had a payment. Like he really did not care at all. It was like either you perform or you're out of here, and I did perform because I made a commitment. So I knew I had to pay the payment. And at the time I could never imagine, and even today I have great credit because I've never not paid for anything. I've never not paid people back. I always pay people back. And that's why I don't like to borrow money because I know I got to pay it back. Right. So, but when I do, I when I'm forced to, for whatever reason, I do pay it back. And so back then I was kind of raised that way. So I paid the payments, and that caused me to be more serious at work. It really did. Like I would go to work more seriously. It put a new aspect on my life. Is I knew now if I didn't go to work, or if I didn't do, I was a salesman and I was on commission, straight commission. So I knew if I didn't go in there and hammer it out, if I hid in the back by the bathroom, or if I was, had a girlfriend who worked at a sandwich shop nearby, if I went and hung out with her, she would, sometimes give me free sandwiches and beers and stuff. If I went out and hang out with her and I didn't sell, if I wasn't on the sales floor, and if I wasn't competing with the other sales guys for each customer that walked in the front door, then I knew I wouldn't make as much money. And so that commitment, I believe, was a good thing. And it caused me to work harder, and I was a good salesman for that company. I was one of the top profit salesmen in the whole chain of electronics. It was electronics company. So that was very good. And okay, so let's talk about marriage. From a guy's perspective, okay, from your perspective, marriage is a commitment. And as much as MGTOWs hate commitment, and marriage is something that most guys don't want, it still is something that can have a positive effect. And I'll give you another example. So I was never married, but my brother was married. Now my brother, when he got married young, and he really got serious about life. My brother was, I think when we were younger, everybody expected me to be the most responsible guy. I was the older son. I was just like kind of responsible as a kid. I saved money. I worked hard as a kid, and I wanted to be a man. I really wanted to be a man when I was young. That was like my big thing. Like I wanted to be a man. I didn't even want to go to school. I just wanted to work. I wanted to be a blue collar guy when I was a kid. And so I think a lot of my friends and family expected me to go, and also I had a very serious girlfriend in high school. So people expected me to go that route, and they expected my brother to not go that route for a lot of reasons when he was younger. But in reality, the exact opposite happened. And he went the very serious route. He went the responsible man route. He's got 3 children, a wife. He's worked hard his whole life. He's saved money. He invested in real estate. He's done well. He really took responsibility. He took commitment. He took it well. And he let it transform him into a better man. And I respect that. I really think whatever causes you to improve yourself, it doesn't really matter. It's like, we're just talking about men now. We're not talking about marriage. We're talking about sometimes when men make commitment, we make commitment and we follow fucking through, right? And that is a good thing. And we also cut out things that are not good for us, right? So I do see the benefit. I do see the advantage of that. And this is one aspect of marriage is kind of like you become more serious about life. And let's face it, that's not a bad thing. Getting serious about life is not a bad thing. Playing video games every day, watching porn all day is not a great thing. So let's look at this article here. I got this from Possum MGTOW. So I saw this on his Twitter, and it was a very interesting article. So I'm going to mix my own ideas here with this article, right? So they're talking about how marriage is becoming less popular. And then they go in this example of the guy who was making $16,000 a year as a single guy. Okay. And then he got married. And when he got married, he joined the army. So he quit the factory. He quit the low paying job. Right. So this is a man, again, forget about marriage. Just think about the commitment. Right. So a man now has responsibility. Now he's a very young man. He's 19, but still he is a man, very much a fucking man. Okay. So he decides that this future of making a small amount of money, living in his parents' basement, was not for him. And so I would say 100% that was because he made a commitment, right? He made a commitment to a woman. He thought about children, and he said, hey, this is not enough. I cannot support them with this. I need more, right? So this was the good side of commitment. He joined the army, where housing, healthcare, they're covered, right? His salary went up to $24,000, and his goal was to provide a better lifestyle for his family, right? Which is again, this is something that I think even for guys who aren't going to get married, even for guys who hate marriage, we still understand that this is not a bad thing. This guy from his basement is now, and incidentally, that's what a lot of people think about MGTOWs. And I don't know what most MGTOWs are doing. I don't know where most guys are. Right now, we're mostly online. I'm hoping to get some guys together, more guys together to meet each other in real life. That's why we're having the conference here on August 8th to 10th in Thailand. But I really think that we need to get together is a very, very important thing personally. But okay, so the critique of MGTOWs is that they are in their basement and they are, playing video games and that. And I would say, like, with this guy, it was definitely true. Before he got married, now he wasn't a MGTOW, but he was single. He was like that, right? And the reason why people make this, there's a couple of reasons why people would say MGTOWs are in their basement. And I would say one of them is a good reason, or not a good reason, but like a logical reason. And the other one is not. One is a put down. One is just to say, hey, you guys are fucked. You guys are assholes, idiots, right? That's like the bad side. But the good side is that we all know that men have two sides to us, right? We have one side that's incredibly playful and just don't give a fuck about the future, race cars, put a tractor on a big rubber band and shoot it over a river, take this children, racing in our cars, smoke cigarettes, drink, party, This is one part of a guy's, like, just not caring at all about the future, right? Just having fun, right? Casual sex, porn. This is one side of guys, and everybody knows that. And the other side is much more rare, but it's guys who get their shit together and move forward and keep improving. They get goals, they save money, they kind of cut out things that are bad for them, and they move forward with things that are good for them, and they improve their life, right? So those are the two. We have like a split personality as guys. So it is kind of like, I would say that the people that say MGTOWs are in their basement, there is some validity to that. And the reason why is because man, if you look at evolution, does things when he has to, right? When you don't have to do anything, it's difficult to get it done. You gain too much weight where, a woman will gain too much weight and no men want her. And so she will say, damn it, I need to lose weight, and then that pain will cause her to lose weight. A guy will drink too much. He drinks too much. He loses his job. He loses trust of society. And then he goes to get help. He says, hey, he hits his bottom, right? And then he changes, right? So if you don't have a bottom, if you don't have anybody, if there's nothing stopping you from going down, it is a tendency of human beings not to get their shit together. So there is a little bit of truth to what people are saying about MGTOWs, because they know this is the good side of the opposition, but they know that men, without being forced, without a need to improve, that men tend not to improve, right? When we train to be in the Olympics, we want to win the gold medal, right? We don't want to get the silver medal. We don't want to lose, right? So that pain causes, the potential of pain causes us to do that extra lap, to do that extra rep. And so, so there is a little bit of truth to it. So this channel is not about saying I'm right, we're always right. It's about looking at things very, very honestly. And I want to boil them down. I think that we can learn from this and we can gain from this too, right? But there's an inherent, if there ain't a need for something, it's difficult to get it motivated to do it, right? If you're still skinny and in good shape, it's easier to eat that cookie, right? You know what I mean? Or if you get incredibly fat, you can't fit your pants anymore. You say, God, I got to change. Fuck these cookies, right? You change, right? Okay. So here's what he says. And now at the end of this, the second half of this, I'm going to totally change, because there is a total bias against single guys. But I'm not going to just say like there's a bias, the fucking assholes, this and that. No, we're going to get into the real reasons why that bias is there. And that bias is something we all have, okay? So I'm going to delve into that in the second half. But right now, men, here's what he's saying in the article. The guy's a PhD, by the way, who wrote this article, right? Okay, so men who get married work harder and more strategically and earn more money than their single peers from similar backgrounds. Marriage, so i.e. commitment, let's just say commitment, transforms men's social worlds. They spend less time with friends and more time with family. They go to bars less. They go to church more. Okay? This is for religious guys, right? Obviously, this guy's religious, so he added the church part. But they do, let's face it, if you're responsible, you got a great job, you're kicking ass, any kind of commitment you have, you will tend to not drink as much, right? If on a Friday night you don't have work on Saturday, you're more likely to have a couple extra beers, right? Whereas on a Sunday night, you got work the next day, you're going to be much less likely to have, those extra beers, because you got to get up tomorrow, right? Okay, that's all that is, right? So let's see, here we go. For richer or poor, there's a report here, economic success. And again, this stuff makes sense. This stuff is logical. Okay, So there's a premium, marriage premium, average married man, or a single, let's see, young married men aged 28 to 30 make $15,900 more than their single peers. And married men 44 to 46 make $18,800 more than their single peers. Now, from a MGTOW perspective, you could say, is $18,000 at 46 years old, if you're supporting, let's say a wife and a kid, so two people, are you personally better off? No, you're not personally better off. Okay, so I would want to just say that. But still, it remains that you're making $18,800 more. And also what he doesn't talk about here is that men die younger than women. And I've never seen an honest research into who dies younger, whether it's married guys, single guys, why guys get, this stuff is very difficult to study. It really is, because guys get divorced, they get, married. It's just not clear, right? So I haven't seen any honest. There's never any research into the benefits of being a single guy. Okay, that's just basically what it is. They're gonna, because there's no powerful political groups that want to study that. Okay, it's not some big conspiracy, right? Churches have a big motivation to do research that it's good to be religious. It's good to have a family, right? So they're going to push things, right? The AARP, the retired people, they have a big, powerful group. They're going to study things about that, right? Single guys are just out on their own, doing their own thing. They're not a political group. Nobody supports them. And MGTOWs in general just get shit on right and left, right? So we already know that. And also, if you look even at other guys, most guys don't support other guys. And you can see this even in the MGTOW community. A lot of guys attacking other guys. I think this is total madness. I really, really think it's madness. There is no reason to be putting down other guys. You take what you like and leave the rest. There's always something there that you benefit from, and learn what you can. Don't spend your energy. Your only group, the only people who care is other guys who are doing the same thing, right? I'm not saying they're going to put their life on the line for you, but they do care. They do care. They're interested in how you're doing. You can see it in the comments below the videos. People actually do care. Okay, so next one. Okay, so this is basically the study that shows that men make more when they're married at any age. It's the same for uneducated men, black, Hispanic, any kind of man. They don't say anything about weight. It's just like guys make more when they're married, when they make a commitment, right? And high school, it doesn't matter if you didn't go to college. It's all the same. So they call it a marriage premium. And then they said maybe it's because guys are better guys get married. Women choose better guys. And I would say there is a bit of truth to this. There's a bit of truth. And just think about this. I'm not saying MGTOWs are not the most awesome guys, but I'm saying this. Like, let's say you're a woman. Okay, you have a daughter, or you're a woman yourself. For a moment, just imagine, and you are looking for a husband. Okay, would you go down to downtown, and would you look at homeless guys, digging out of trash cans? Would you go and talk to them and go on dates with them? Or would you see the guy with the nice car at the gym who's got a suit on, and would you want to marry him, right? Women don't, it's called many words, hypergamy and everything, but basically just think about it. Like, if you're a woman, which one are you going to look at? You're going to look at the guy who's doing better, right? That's just a natural thing. So I would say that women do choose better guys. Okay, that I say better, quote unquote, because this is one, the ability to choose better or worse is obviously not, most humans aren't very good at that one. And also, what is better can change very, very rapidly, as we see people's fortunes changing very quickly depending on what's going on. And you see that people have weaknesses, Achilles heel, and things like that, right? So, okay. So, but basically, like, there is some truth to the fact that better guys, okay, supposedly get married because they have more earning potential. They're maybe healthier. Just like girls, better, quote unquote, girls are going to get married to guys if they have a better body, if they have prettier hair, they have a more likely chance to get married just because men have a preference for that. They're going to choose that if they have a choice. If they don't have a choice, then they won't, right? But okay, so this article here is where we're talking about basically men doing better if they're married, and there is some truth, like I said, And so it's one of the last passages in manhood. I would say yes, I would agree with that for many men. Marriage engenders an ethical, basically, and familial responsibility among men, a newfound sense of meaning and status. Now, this is the key thing. This is the second half here. Status in the world. This one is very important. Okay, and I'll go into that later. Marriage also encourages men to take their role as providers seriously, just like my car. I made a commitment to that car, and I paid that fucking car off, and I worked hard. You know, I had a lot of things that happened to me after that, and I kept working. I paid that car off, and then I sold that car, and I went overseas, and I've been overseas the rest of my life, my whole life since then. But I remember I paid the car off, then I sold it, then I went overseas, right? So I took that responsibility seriously, right? And guys, we like that. And I, even now, looking back, as a young man, I was 19 to 23, and I went overseas forever, basically at 24, and that was a good memory, okay? That was a good memory. I made a commitment, I stuck to it, I had challenges, you know, I fought things off, you know, I had difficulties, I ended up in a 12-step program, but I paid that thing off. I always paid my payment on time. That's why I have good credit in the U.S., right? That's one of the big reasons, right? So, okay, so next thing here is married men are motivated to maximize their income. No doubt about that. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Making more money, being more successful, let's face it, whatever the reason, it's not bad. It's not bad for guys. You know, we are better men when we try to improve our lives. And I hope this is something that MGTOWs take seriously, is that, you know, there's one thing is just sitting around and having fun, you know, just, you know, whatever, like not being serious about life and just basically passing up good opportunities and just getting drunk and things like that. This is very attractive, okay, for guys. And I see it. I understand it. I mean, I definitely understand it. And I could be even seen as an example of that in some ways, right? But at the same time, that this is not our goal. This is only one aspect of guys, right? It's only one aspect of us. And there's a lot more to men. Men have so much more than just that part of us, right? That's an important part. It is. Kind of the letting off steam part, the relaxing, the lack of seriousness, you know, just the not giving a fuck. That part of guys, and I don't think women have this. I think women have much more difficulty separating things in their lives. And if they have difficulty, their brains are just all worried about this one thing, whereas guys can say, yeah, that's a low-level problem. It's sure I got problems at work, but fuck that, I'm off work. And they just totally forget about it, you know. Or maybe they have a problem with their relationship. They go to work, they totally forget about it till they are driving home, you know. Guys are good at that. Guys are good at that, and that's one of the things guys are good at, actually. So here we go. Married men benefit from the advice of encouragement of their wives. I would also agree with this. Many of my girlfriends or girls I've slept with have helped me in business, and I think it's kind of like, I don't want to exaggerate this one either. At the same time as I want to give credit where credit's due. Again, this podcast is not about being right. It's not about putting people down. It's about getting to the truth, the reality. So just think about this. Okay, if you have a heart attack in your house and there's nobody there, you're probably going to die. It's going to be very difficult for you to get up, drive yourself to the hospital, or to even get up and use the phone while you're having a serious heart attack, right? Whereas if you have somebody in the house, whether it's a maid or a wife or children or whatever, they can spring into action and save your life, right? So there is benefit with having people in your house, no matter how stupid they are. Just another human being can be valuable in your house, just physically. We're talking about the most basic thing, you know, it could be the dumbest person in the world, but as long as there's somebody there, they can dial 911 or whatever country you're in, whatever the number is for emergency, right? They can get help. They can go outside and scream. If they're too stupid to dial 911, they can go outside and scream, and somebody else can dial 911, right? So having somebody there, not necessarily a bad thing. And also when it comes to advice and encouragement from other people, it does help to have somebody who's together with you, watching you, knows your weaknesses, and then knows your strength and can kind of like guide you. Like, you know, even like I've had women who will say, you know, I think you've been working really hard on this thing, but you know, like honestly, like you're making more money from the thing over there that you're not even working on. Why don't you work on that more? And then I'll go and think about it. I'll think, damn, she was right. Why am I putting so much energy into this thing that's not making me money? It's like I just kind of like don't have the right perspective. Sometimes having another human being with you can really help. Men, women, or whatever. But women tend to live with you. They tend to see more of you, right? So they can see these things. So I will say that there is some benefit to having a human being around you, watching you, who also has a stake in your success too, right? So this is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It can be, of course, this can be bastardized. You can have total cunts who are stealing your money, who are like actively trying to destroy you. Women poison men. Women divorce men. Men cheat. There is all other possibilities. Just looking at the positive, and the positive does exist. So I want to mention it, right? I have had women who have helped me to see myself from the outside, and that is very true. And I've also had many guys do that for me too. And I really appreciate when anybody does it. Okay. So I'm not going to put down anybody who tries to help me. I really appreciate it when someone unbiased can see me from the outside. That's very valuable. And that's what I get from the MGTOW community on my videos. When I make a mistake, guys will say, I think you're wrong about this, but you're right about this. And and that helps me because I thought, oh, geez, I was wrong about that. I couldn't see that, or I got too much off on this, right? So this is a good thing. Improving yourself, reading a book is one thing, but having, that's the difference between having a mentor, because a mentor looks at you in real time in your life and says, why don't you try this? You might be doing too much of that, right? So this is a good thing. And guys, mentors are very, very important, right? And they can become in many, many forms too. Now here's where we're getting to the fucking bias. Okay, now, so the first half of this is basically about guys, how guys taking commitment can be good for us as men, okay? Whatever that commitment is, whether it's buying a car, getting married, having children, starting a business, joining the military. There's so many forms of male commitment, but these are some of the ones that came to my mind here. But now we're getting to the bias. Now, employers like married men with children. Okay, this is true. This is fucking true. And I want to talk about this one a lot because this is fucking important. How many of you guys have had people either help you or not help you because you were single or married, right? How many of you have had that? Because I can tell you that when I was working after I finished school, I went around the world, and I ended up, I'm not going to say where, I ended up in a small country, and I couldn't get it. I needed money, so I got a job in a sawmill, and I was working in a sawmill, and I was working my ass off in a physical job after I finished my degree. But hey, when you're working in a foreign country, you can't always get what you want, right? I made good cash under the table, and I was lifting logs, driving trucks. It was fucking awesome, actually. I never felt more, I guess you could call it love, from the other guys that I ever had with that job. That job had no fucking politics at all. We all worked hard, and we fucking really enjoyed it. I fucking loved that job. I can tell you, every time there was a break, there was no weirdness going on. There was nobody fucking somebody over. It was men. It was all men. Okay, it was 100% men. I could say where it is in northern Sweden, and everybody was totally nice. But there was one guy there, my boss, the guy who kind of took over as my boss, essentially. Although he didn't really have a boss, but he kind of took as a more of a mentor kind of guy, and he was very pro-marriage, very, very pro-marriage, this guy, almost like deluded pro-marriage, this guy. And he said to me, he was a nice guy too, and he was helpful. He helped me a lot. But he said, you really need to think about getting married, finding a nice Swedish girl. And he really liked me. He was like, you really need to settle down. He wanted me to stay there. That's basically what he wanted me. He wanted me to be around. He thought we got along great. And he thought I would be good for this small community. And he was like, hey, he basically wanted to help me introduce like a nice girl and get settled down. And Sweden was very safe at the time, very low crime. It was a great place to be. And so he wanted me to stay there. And so he kept telling me the benefits of marriage all the time, the benefits, But basically, that's the good side. But the bad side is that if I didn't get married, he really didn't want to help me. it was almost like somebody who's, you're Christian, okay, and you're trying to get someone to be Christian. If they don't do it long term, you give up on them, right? It's like, okay, I can move to the next one, right? And same thing with sales, right? If you're trying to sell something and the guy doesn't buy and he decides he's never going to buy, you move on to the next one. But he was making a sales pitch to me, and he was making here's what he was going to give me. He was going to help me get a real job in this factory, like a legal job, get a visa, get married, have children. He was going to introduce me to the people in the city, like everybody who was powerful. There was a lot of very attractive benefits he wanted to, because he was a very established guy. He was an established man, and he was basically opening up his world for me. But it was based on the fact that I did what he wanted. In the end, let's face it, that's what he was saying. He wasn't saying like you can go about and be a single guy having fun, and you can also get all the benefits of what I'm offering. No, it was like you get married, you have kids, you do that, and then I will be there for you and I will help you, right? And I've had people do this to me many times. And I want you guys to think about it in your life. Who did this to you? I remember one other guy. He very, very clearly said to me, he was a very successful guy. He had gone, and I don't mean that lightly. He had taken a company public. He started a company with his own money. He was a self-made man, and he went public in Japan on the stock exchange, the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And he was a super successful guy. His company made a lot of money. It was a successful IPO. It was a very profitable company. And he said to me, look, like I think you're very talented. Because I had known him for many years. He said, I think you're very talented. And I'd like to help you. But I think that the one thing you don't have that's not good is you're not married. He had 3 children. He had a wife, and obviously, I would go to his house, and his family loved me, his kids loved me, his wife was always super nice to me when I came over, and it was like this kind of good feeling. And he was like, hey, this guy has the potential to be a very good married guy, and also he's smart. Maybe we can do stuff together. And also I think at this point in his life, he was so successful that he did want to give back to society, right? He wanted to help other guys. And I think also he was a very shrewd man, and he also wanted to have other people in his corner. So like if I did something, I would be on his side, right? You know what I'm saying? He wanted to help me, but he also wanted me to be on his side, right? Whether I was going to work for, I'm sure he had some kind of a plan for me, basically. And I couldn't believe it because he told me directly. Because I, as a single guy who's always had a lot of fun, who's always been very free, who's always been very good, like if you call it good with women, girls often, even when I was young, it was very easy for me to get girls, sex, whatever. And so guys like this guy, who were the exact opposite, very serious dudes who were very successful, they've always kind of come up to me and said almost like if you turn your ways, if you become, if you go my way, the riches will open up to you. I will introduce you to people. I will help you. But often guys don't say this directly. I've only had 2 people say it directly, and the one who said it the most directly was this guy with the public company in Tokyo. And he said he was a very straightforward guy. We're still friends today. He said, "Look, if you get married, if you go down that road, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get rich. We can start a company together. We can do something together." And I looked at it. I was like blown away that he was like saying it so directly, because most people don't say it directly. They just they have this hidden bias against single guys, and they will help married guys, right? And this is what we're going to talk about more, but they don't say it directly. But this guy is a very straightforward guy, and that's probably why he's so successful. He's just like very straightforward. And he said, you get married, I'm going to help you. You get married, you're a good man, you're a good husband, I'm going to start a company with you, you're going to get rich. That's basically what he said, straight up. And I was like, it was tempting. It was very tempting. And I thought about it. And he was a advisor for my company, and he did his job. He was a very good advisor, almost like a board of directors kind of guy. But I just quietly didn't take his offer. And he chose another guy. There was another guy that was my friend and was his friend. And he went the married route. He did exactly what this guy wanted. And now they both have a very successful company together, actually, in Asia. And they're making a lot of money, and it was very successful for that guy. And in some ways, I can say that I wish I would have done it in some ways, because I saw like having a guy who's essentially a US dollar billionaire supporting you and helping you and introducing you to people. And this guy's also a very connected guy too, because he's also quite political. And so, having a guy like that on your side, bring you into meetings, bring you in, supporting you, almost like a father, almost like a mentor, right? And that what he did for this other friend of mine, the guy became very successful. Obviously not nearly as successful as the other guy is, but still, he's set. This guy is set. He's got a great business. It's making great money. It was a very smart business. There was a need, and they filled it, and they did a good job, and they fought through the difficult times. I'm not saying it was easy, but they succeeded. And I would have done the same thing if I would have chosen that path. And so part of me, part of life is you choose some things and you have to not choose others. And as a MGTOW, as a guy who's not going to get married, like for myself and not for everybody on this podcast, but no matter what, I will turn down the opportunity to be very wealthy and successful because somebody else wants me to do it. It's not something that I want to do, even if I do see the benefits of it. I mean, I can say, right now I do see the benefits. And my friend who did this, I'm very happy for him. The guy who is successful, it's like, with this business that he's doing with this guy, it's awesome. It's cool to see. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, now we're going to get into the negative side, or the hidden bias that I never fucking hear about. And this is something that I've kind of hinted at so far, is that there is a bias in society for people that are in a difficult position. Okay? Now we know that, obviously homeless guys, there's a soup kitchen for them, right? Why? Why does a homeless guy, let's just think about it like simply. You need food. Lunchtime, you got to eat, right? Dinner time, you got to eat. Breakfast, you got to eat, right? Why isn't there a soup kitchen for you? Because you don't really need it, okay? So there's this bias towards people that need something or in a difficult position. Now, the married man bias, I've already talked about the positive aspect where people said to me, if you get married, if you follow this path that I have lined for you, I'm going to open up my network to you. I'm going to give you positive things, right? Positive opportunities, right? So that's one aspect. Now, for a guy who's already married, okay, so just like with my car, I already made the commitment, right? So I had to work hard. That internally transformed me into a more serious guy, right? But it's also on the outside. And we are all fucking biased. Not just women, not just married guys, single guys, MGTOWs, everybody. We are all fucking biased. Okay, so if let's say there's two guys, okay, and I've seen this a million times. I'd love to hear your examples, because the examples really are the most important thing. Is when a guy is married and he needs a job and he's got children, is that everybody's fucking waiting in line to give him a good opportunity or to help him. I've seen this a million times. Okay. So for example, a guy will be married and he won't really have much going on. Right. And word gets out, he's got kids. Word gets out. Like, I've heard this so many fucking times. Okay, I want to separate it too. There's two types of guys that are married who have need. Okay, one is a success, like a really hardworking, good man. He's not drinking. He's not using drugs. He's on the path. I'm not saying drinking is bad. I'm just saying like he you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just separating it to two guys. One is the guy who's like trying his best. Okay, and the other guy is, let's just say there's another guy, general guy who's really a fuck up. He doesn't, he's just a total loser. Like, he has this commitment. He's got these children, but he's just he's just a loser, right? He's not doing anything good for himself. He's not doing good for them. He's not making good decisions. He's making bad decisions, and he's taking risks, and it's just like a total clusterfuck, right? Okay. Now, both of them get this bias. Both of them. Okay. So of course, the guy who's like the serious guy who's doing his best. So maybe, he was, the beneficiary of something very negative that he couldn't control. So like the housing crisis, he saved money, he bought a house, and then all of a sudden, the bottom fell out and he was fucked. And society is just humans, many humans, sees that, this very good man is doing his best, and he's got like people that need to eat under him, okay, kids. So, and then they, let's say they have a good job, and then they see an opportunity, like there's an opening at their company. They're going to very likely say to their friend, the guy with the kids, the guy with the commitment, and the reason, either going to say, hey, there's an opening at my company. I'd like to introduce you to that opening, right? The reason why is because we have a bias as humans, okay, not as men or women, we have a bias towards people in need, okay? So if one guy's not eating, okay, he's hungry, we feel bad about that, but we feel much worse if there's a guy who can't eat and a woman who can't eat and 2 kids who can't eat, right? And this is kind of a logical bias, right? It makes sense, right? It's like one person instead of 4 can't eat, right? So who are you going to help? If you can help one guy who can help the other 3, that's a kind of more logical thing to do, right? Rather than the single guy, right? The single guy who doesn't have, he just has to protect, supply for himself. He needs less, and also he engenders less emotion and sympathy from me, you, everybody on this planet, right? So whereas the guy who, you got him and you also got other people, and then the other thing is that children obviously can't become, lumberjacks at 2 years old. So these kids also don't have the same capacity to work, right? They don't have the capacity to study, right? They're still, they're still infants, right? So that also is another aspect of it, is that you have children, they're little, right? And they need food and they can't work. They can't get a job, right? So, they can't lift a tree. They can't drive a truck. So, they can't do what they need to do. They're still dependent, right? So that society will always choose, and you will too, every human being, we're all the same. We see the need is bigger with the married guy. So we will tend to help that. And again, I'm talking about the kind of successful guy, the guy that we think is going to do a good job. So we might, like, for example, if you see a guy with 3 kids, let's say 2 kids, because if the guy has 8 kids, you start to feel less sympathy for him. Like, this fucking guy, what's wrong with this guy? But let's go with the kind of the perfect one. He's hardworking, he's serious, he's done his best, he's been fucked over by something that was totally not his fault, and then you have an opportunity in your company. That serious guy, you're going to introduce him to your company, and you're going to feel good about yourself. Like, you did a good thing, kind of, right? You did a good thing. Now, let's go the other side. Let's go with a married guy. He is married. He signed the contract, right? But he's a total loser. Like, he's just drunk all the time. He doesn't shave. He's outside breaking windows all the time. He's causing trouble. He doesn't cut his lawn. He's like getting DUIs all the time. He's in fights all the time. He's mean. He's racist. Whatever it is that you think is bad, this guy has all these traits, right? And you see him beating his wife out in the front yard. That's a totally different topic, right? The woman could be just as likely beating him. Yeah, so don't get me wrong. So she could be exactly the fucking same. We're just not talking about women right now. So you imagine there's a woman just like that, and there's a lot of them, and nobody's watching them. Nobody's like putting them, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of women, they're total fucking losers and violent, and they're getting away with it. Okay, that's another topic. That's another podcast. So let's just say for guys now, we're talking about men, right? An unsuccessful, childish, immature man who's not taking responsibility. He's taking the commitment, and the woman is out there. She's, working at Target. She's working her ass off, trying to pay for the kids. Let's just say, for example, in this situation, right? Now, even that guy, you might not introduce him to your company. Okay, I got somebody in mind here, because I know somebody that's my age, and I've known this guy for a long time. Okay, basically since we're kids, and he's like this exactly. Okay, and he chose a very lame business. He chose a very lame, I shouldn't even say business, like, kind of lame way to make money. Of course, it didn't work out. He doesn't have any talent, and now he's old. He's 52, and he doesn't have any success, but he does have kids and a wife. And so he's basically like completely fucked on his own. And, he's just trying to he's just pathetic. He's running around like nothing's going right in his life. And he posted on social media a few weeks ago that, like he needs to like get a job so he can pay for food and rent and stuff. And he just moved back to my hometown and he's in a tough situation. Now, what happened? So he's a different type of guy. He's not the successful guy who's doing his best. He's the exact opposite. He's never, as far as I know, he's never done almost anything right. So, but somebody did get him a job, not at their company, but it was like a basically a manual labor job. And the reason why he got that job is not because he's talented. It's just because he has need. And in the end, we all look at his children and we think, fuck, these poor kids got to eat. This guy's, he's not going to be able to like support these kids. His kids are still young, and his wife too, she seems nice enough, looking online. And so one of my friends from high school got him a job and now he's working and he's so lame that he didn't even have the tools they needed for this job. And so another friend got him the tools. And so now he's got a high paying manual labor job, which I'm sure is not the greatest job, but it is high paid. And it is something that, you go to work, you get done, you're done. There's no responsibility after work. You can just, drink beers or whatever. You just go off and go to sleep or play video games or whatever you want. It's one of those kind of jobs, right? You just put in the time at work and then you're done. You're done. And so even this guy got help from society. And the word travels fast in every society, in every group. When there's people who have other people relying on them, we are more likely to help them. Even if they're total not successful guys or they are successful guys, they both get that benefit. And single guys do not get it. And I can say this for a fact. So I have never gotten the benefit of society's kind of lagresse, okay, or help. Right? My whole life, nobody, and I don't mean this as like sour grapes. I mean this is the real reality. Is that I've had a lot of friends. I have tons of good friends, but nobody sees me as a needy guy. You know what I mean? Like they just don't. They see me as a talented guy who's out there. And if I'm not getting what I want, they think I need to get my shit together. They're not going to help me. Now they might want to do something with me, see me as a benefit to work with or, benefit in many ways. And they're very good friends, but they just don't see me as a pathetic guy who needs help. Or even in the good man who's in a bad situation, they don't even see me that way, And when I have been in a bad situation, I did get help, but it was very temporary, right? I needed something long story, business thing. And so, I have, it's not like nobody's ever helped me. It's not like that, but just, I'm not the type of guy that people see as needy, And so I get a lot of love from people and it's just my life. It's just kind of like something I have to live with. And it's something, maybe there's some reason for it, but it is a bias. And I see a lot of losers getting help, getting jobs, like whatever it is, opportunities from other people. And it does kind of bother me. And it also in some aspects, I think now that I'm talking about it, never talked about this before. I think, obviously people think I've got talent, like they must, Not helping me means they think I can do it to myself, right? So there is or that I'm in a good situation, so they don't help. But I just see it around me. I wanted to hear what you think about this. The bias towards guys that are in difficult situations, guys who made commitments, is real. And in the end, we all do need help. And that's what I want to say, is no matter how successful you are or not successful, we all need support and we all need fucking help. And guys that kind of have their shit together are kind of the guys who nobody ever helps and nobody ever thanks because they just think, well, he's fine, right? That guy doesn't need anything. But that's not really true. I don't think it's true. I really don't think it's true. I think we all need emotional support. And sometimes we even appreciate when someone helps just for no reason, just says, hey, I heard about this. You interested? There's this opportunity. We'd like to do this business. We'd like to, there's this thing going on. I think that society's bias towards guys who are kind of pathetic or in a pathetic situation is kind of lame. I really do. I think it's kind of lame. I think that it's good to reevaluate once in a while who you're helping and why you're helping. Because I think a lot of the help that people do and give other people is based on flawed models. A lot of times when you see people, feeding people soup kitchens, it has the exact opposite effect on that guy that what they want to have on that person, right? They think like the way that people help people, I think I think personally, the model's broken. And we need to rethink who we're going to help, who we're going to support, how we're going to go about living our life in a way that helps people to succeed, right? And because we all want to give back. I mean, men, this one thing about men, we got a lot to give. It's like your brain thinks, like I read somewhere that your brain thinks like almost 100,000 times faster than you can read. So your brain is hearing sounds, feeling feelings, seeing the clouds change, the leaf moving, somebody in the other room, the hardness of feeling on the floor from your feet. We're analyzing and feeling and sensing 100,000 things, and we're thinking all these thoughts as we're reading the book, like, oh man, what about this? And then old ideas. Our brains are very, very fast. We have so much to give. So if this is any kind of message in the end, I would say is to MGTOWs, is as you're breaking out, is that one is whether it's better or worse. And again, I'm not saying society is fucked. I'm just saying that like it is not in your favor. They want to help married guys, whether they're good guys or losers. Those guys get benefits from society. And again, the reason is not so evil. It's kind of like you can kind of breaking it down to the need and how many people need to eat and all that kind of stuff. Often there's like kind of a logical reason for them. But part of improving yourself is getting down to that, getting down to that nitty gritty level where you're saying, wait a second, do I really believe this? Does this make sense? Does my thinking, which leads to my actions, lead to the result that I wanted? And how do I feel about that result? That's what I want you to do. I want you to think from everything from where you think and feel, and then how you act, and then did it really work out? Like we looked in the last episode, there was a great comment below about leaving a legacy. Somebody said his friend had spent his whole life supporting his kids, and he's now passed away. And then and the reason why is he wanted them to have a better life. He wanted them to, be better. And then now the children are friends with this guy, the comment below, which is a great comment, such a great comment. And the children don't appreciate it, didn't even agree, and they blame everything on their father. So his whole life was in service of a total lie that never happened. And in fact, the exact opposite happened. So we need to start looking at the result so that we can make better decisions. Instead of just blindly saying, we're doing this to help this person. And then it not only does it not help them, but they don't even appreciate it. It doesn't have any positive benefit, but we give up valuable stuff. And again, I want to end on this. I want to say that I'm not saying to do nothing. I'm not saying to not help. I'm saying to think about what you're doing even deeper than before and actually keep track. You know what I mean? Like, I thought this, I did this, here was the result. Was the result the way I thought? Am I happy with the result? Instead of just blindly having these ideas and then blindly doing things like a robot in your life. It's getting down and looking at it. You can make more difference the more you analyze situations and realize that you're living your life in the matrix. You're living your life in a way that doesn't make sense. The things that you're spending good money and time on are not having the benefit you want. In fact, they might even be having the opposite. But you're doing it through your own experience and other guys' experience, and you're coming up with a super honest, facing reality. Like Chris Cantu's latest videos is like really facing some fucking reality, right? You're going through the fire of personal transformation, and you're looking at things fearlessly and then keeping track and then making better decisions, right? I think that's growth. I think that's what MGTOWs need to do. I think that is like fucking awesome shit. Yeah, all right. So Ronin Man signing off, and my mom's last day in town, so I'm going to go take her out, and I'm going to do some whatever she wants to do, really. We're just going to go cruising around. Today I will be the last, she's here for 9 days, and like the good son, right? And there ain't nothing fucking wrong with that. There ain't fucking nothing wrong with being the good son. There ain't nothing wrong with being good to people, right? And absolutely fucking nothing wrong with that. And there's benefit for me too, because she's older. I'd like to be good to her as she's, getting very elderly. We all get older, right? Life is not easy, not for anybody. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks for delving deep with me in this topic about about men and commitments, right? And how that affects us, right? And also how it affects other people, right? And living with the fucking reality that the better you do, the less people help you, right? You know what I mean? Like, why are they helping that idiot, that loser? You're dealing with real emotions, right? Real feelings, right? So fuck it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.